Good day, everyone, and thank you so much for spending your time to watch this session. Basically, this is a presentation done at a journals club session uh, in School of Computer Science, University Science Malaysia, and I felt I should remake the video so that I can make it available on YouTube for researchers to watch. So the title of the presentation is Setting Up a Simulation Environment for Computer Science Research. A lot of reasons might cause somebody to need a simulation environment for so many things. So let's quickly look into the presentation. So first, I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to talk about the motivation behind this presentation. Then I'm going to start by introducing simulation. Then we will look at some of the simulation models available. Then simulation environment. Then we're going to look at simulation architecture. Then simulation preparation. That is how to prepare a simulation environment. Then we're going to look at some steps for simulation. And then I wanted to give a demonstration, but due to some limitations, I will make a separate video to talk about the demonstration. But I'm going to give some highlight on the step-by-step process for setting up this environment. So first, let's look at the motivation behind this presentation. And the motivation is very simple. First, there is lack of availability of learning resources regarding this area, which is setting up environment for simulation, especially for research. There are a lot of simulation videos out there on YouTube, on many social media platforms, but there is a very obvious limitation on the availability of such kind of videos that actually target this topic. Then the next motivation is that there is risk involved in creating or in using research variables in some environment. Sometimes when we try to do one or two things related to our research, then we end up hurting others, or we end up causing death. Sometimes we affect an entire infrastructure if, for example, malware is involved or some kind of ransomware and so on. So first of all, let's look at what simulation is all about. I will start by showing one video. As you can see, this is a simulation done to prove a concept, and from this side, as you can see, it's also another kind of simulation done to execute malware in a real environment and to see how it affects the environment. So these are just some example of simulation. So if we are to define simulation, we can say that a simulation is a process of creating a model, or a process of creating a system in order to identify or understand factors that control or that have the ability to change the state of behavior within a system. So this is a simulation. Any kind of environment that we create with the intention to build or to mimic a process, or to mimic an existing or a proposed system, we can say that is a simulation. There are many ways we can simulate, and we're going to see that in the subsequent slides. In computer science, basically, we have two different architectures for, or let me call them models for simulation. One is the architecture simulators, and the other one is platform visualization. So as you can see, architecture simulators allows you to simulate processes, to simulate execution of software, execution of processes within an environment, and this could be any kind of project. It doesn't mean it has to be within this scope. It can be anything. And then of course we can say that platform virtualization allows you to create different operating systems on a single computer, which allows you to virtualize your system so that we have what we call a host operating system and a guest operating system. So as you can see on this demonstration, these are two different operating systems, and these operating systems are working under a host operating system. And a host operating system could be any type of operating system, as long as you have all the configurations, as well as you have all the settings and everything in place. So these are basically the two models we use in computer science. Now, moving next, we are going to focus our attention basically today on this one, but then later on a different note, we can talk about this as well. Although I'm going to give a very quick overview of some of the architectures of this aspect. Okay, so these are the two models, and under this architecture simulator we can have different types of simulators. For Internet of Things, if you want to simulate Internet of Things devices, you can use this software. It's a very powerful and popular software. For networking, you want to demonstrate the use of routers, computers, how they communicate, Active Directories, you want to set up domains. Packet Tracer has everything for you, and it gives you a very kind of real environment. Sometimes you forget that you are in a virtual environment because you can be able to program routers, switches, and so on. And then of course NetSim is also another bigger software in this field of simulation, especially for networks. So also NS3, and then of course the WS simulator is also another one which allows you to simulate cloud computing. And then lastly, MATLAB, which is a very popular platform for all kind of things. You can run artificial intelligence, you can run some simulations, some things to do with design and so on. It has a very wide range of things which you can do with MATLAB. Then of course, if we are talking about the platform visualization, we can talk about VMware. VMware is one of those powerful tools for virtualization, and of course Microsoft Hyper-V is also one of them. And we have the VirtualBox. VirtualBox is recently, it has been dominating because it is free, and it is very easy to use, and very flexible at the same time. And then of course we use Sandbox, which is also another virtual environment which allows the execution of malware and malware related applications. And then we have the Apple Boot, which is more like a Macintosh oriented environment, which allows simulation within the Mac environment. And then we have the SolarWinds, which is also another virtualization platform. Then let's look at some operating system that we can host on any of these virtual systems. Now, most of the popular ones nowadays include Kali Linux. Kali Linux is one of those, let me say, one of those operating systems which has everything that you need when it comes to defending networks or defending system in general. So it is mostly used by ethical hackers. Sometimes it's used by hackers as well, because it does both things. So when installed on any of these virtual platforms, then surely you will have a very good experience of a controlled environment. And then of course we have the live hacking OS, which is also another one. Usually not as good as Kali, but at least it's also good. And then we have Backtrack. Backtrack has always been a very powerful tool as well, especially for students who are pursuing their study in ethical hacking courses by EC Council and so on. Then of course we can simulate Windows operating systems such as XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, 10, and so on. We can simulate Windows Server, Windows whatever you have. And then of course we have the Solaris operating system as well for your references. So today we are going to talk about platform visualization. I've already said that, with focus on VirtualBox. The choice for VirtualBox is very important for me because I want to make it simple and easy for people to understand, because most students prefer using VirtualBox because it has a very easy and simple configuration settings. VMware, sometimes you need to purchase it, and students mostly prefer to use free software. So we can have some VirtualBox and some free sandbox as well. So let's move to the next topic, which is simulation architecture. So basically, this is a kind of overview on how a simulation, or let me call it an architectural structure of a simulation environment. So basically, this is this layer represents the hardware, which is the system, which is the computer or machine that is being used. For example, the computer you are using right now to watch this video or to study. And then of course we have on top of the computer the host operating system. The computer here is the host, therefore whatever operating system is on the system is the host operating system. And then on top of the host operating system we have what we call the hypervisor, and the hypervisor here is an engine that serves as a shield between the host operating system and the guest operating system. So in this layer we have the guest operating system. So in essence we can say that when you install a virtual system, it occupies this layer, and of course on the virtual system you install the guest operating system. So when you install the guest operating system, you can install as many as possible depending on the size of your system and how much your system can actually take. Some system cannot take more than 2, some cannot take more than 3, depending on your system's configuration. So for any of these operating systems you can install as many simulating tools as possible, such as the packet tracer, such as the any kind of software that you can use for simulation can be installed on any of these systems. So basically this is how the architecture works. And one more thing I want to talk about before I move further is the work of the hypervisor. One thing that makes simulation very interesting is the fact that this hypervisor creates a kind of barrier that protects this main host operating system from being infected or from being affected by the changes taking place in this environment. Which means, just as you have seen this, there are some barriers between each border. So it's the same thing in reality. When you install any guest operating system, depending on the kind of work you do on that, even if there is an outbreak of a malware or of some kind of crashing or something, still we hope that it does not come to the host operating system. And again, you can always reset the guest operating system anytime you want to do so. And by resetting, I mean whatever action is being done on any of these operating systems can be restored by pressing just a button. Now let's talk about preparation for simulation. The first thing you should bear at the back of your mind is you need to select a VMware vendor. Now it depends on you whether you want a free or you want a paid vendor, and I've given those examples. We talk about VirtualBox, VMware, Solaris, and so on. And then of course we can say that set up a good machine with sufficient specification. Your system must make sure that you have to make sure that your system has a very good RAM, maybe depending on how many simulations you want to run. It depends on that. So 16 GB is okay, 32 GB is okay, depending on the kind of work you intend to do. And then of course your processor has to be very good, and of course your GTX should be very powerful enough to hold the graphics. And then of course the hard disk drive should have enough space for the operating systems to be able to run. So another thing is you have to ensure that the host machine is registered. What I mean by the host machine is the operating system that is working on the main machine. And the reason is because sometimes some virtual systems find it difficult to run on an unregistered operating system. So that is very important as well. Make it genuine. Make sure it has this genuineness. And then of course you have to select the guest operating system, and the guest operating system could be any operating system. Okay, it could be any operating system. I've given the names of some operating systems which are very, very useful for simulation. And then of course I have to let you understand that getting the ISO file for the guest operating system is very, very important. It makes installation much easier. But I'm not saying that you cannot install an operating system that is not in an ISO format. Of course you can, but there are a lot of issues including booting and so on. So it's good if you have an ISO file. That will be very much recommended. And then of course you need to evaluate the system and hardware requirements. And what I mean by this is that you need to understand the space involved, you know, what kind of system you are using. And then of course you have to look at what is the requirement of the operating system you are going to mount on this virtual system. What is the requirement? For example, for Windows 10, the minimum requirement for a Windows 10 to run on a hardware or on a machine is to have a minimum of 1 GB RAM and to have, I think, a minimum of 10 GB hard disk. That is okay for that. But if possible, you should always go for the average requirement so that the system goes or works smoothly. And then of course sometimes when you are going to use a very, very powerful simulation, such as a simulation that involves software, I mean malware, especially, you know, those kind of malware that can spread over to the network, then it is very good to set up a very good firewall which stands between the guest operating system and the host operating system. Even though we have the hypervisor doing that for us, but it's an extra layer of security to have a good firewall before installing your virtual system. Like I said, this is optional, it's not necessary. And then of course it is good to document your steps and changes, including system information, because sometimes when you are dealing with a virtual environment, you cannot afford to forget any kind of information, because every information is useful and it should not be ignored. Therefore, documenting your steps, documenting changes in the environment, documenting information related to systems, IP addresses, you know, all these kind of things should be well documented. So that's for the preparation. Now here are some simulation steps which we need to take care of, and this is the most important aspect of today's presentation, because it gives you an overview of how the entire process is going to take place. So the first thing you have to do is you need to formulate your problem. And by formulating your problem, I mean you need to look at what exactly is the problem you want to simulate, or what kind of a system you want to simulate. And if this system has to be simulated, then what are the risks involved, what are the requirements of the system, what are the things that the system has to put in place before it could be run on a simulation environment. Then the next thing you have to do is you have to set up your project goals, what you want to achieve and what exactly you want to do during this simulation. And in trying to do so, you have to identify your simulation variables. And what are your simulation variables? These are things, or these are factors that can affect or that can change the behavior of whatever you are going to test in this simulation environment. And then of course you have to collect data sometimes, and this collection of data could be that you have to collect data that can be run on this environment, or a data that could be, play with on this environment. So you have to put all this in place. And then of course you have to go to the next thing, which is the design of the experiment. It's good to design an experiment so that you understand the pros and cons of this setup. And then of course now it's time to set up the environment by installing all the required applications, testers, and tools that you will need for executing the simulation. And then here you have to run your simulation. After running your simulation, there are many ways you can collect information or result from the simulation. So collection of result is very essential, and ensuring that the result is collected without any compromise and without compromising the integrity of that result is very, very important in this job. Therefore, you have to be extra careful here. And then of course you have to collect data in two ways. In the first way, you have to collect data before the simulation was done. This data will serve as your benchmark to understand whether the behavior of that system or the behavior of that environment has been affected by the variables or not. Therefore, the after simulation data will help you in comparing this two set of processes. And then of course you have to go further to analyze your result, and then by analyzing your result you have to understand what are the changes or what are the variables that were affected and how the system reacted to certain variables, and so on and so forth. And then finally you need a documentation and reporting, that is reporting this very result which you collected as a result of the simulation. And then you have to present this report in a very good presentable manner so that you can take further action. So in short, this is the simulation process and how the entire setup is being done. Now I want to look briefly into this so that we can see some demonstration. I wanted really to demonstrate, but I will demonstrate in another video, but I will walk you through some very important thing. So number one is you need to download and install a VMware, and to do that I'm going to quickly walk you through. Okay, so I can just look for any of the virtual system products. Let me just divide my screen. Okay, so first I'm going to download a virtual system, let's say VirtualBox, and this is the website for VirtualBox. I can go directly to download, or you can just go and have a look at the website and everything. So basically this is the latest version of VirtualBox. I can just click on this, and definitely I have to choose what is the host operating system. Is it a Windows host, or is it a Mac host, or is a Linux, or is a Solaris host, depending on what host you are using. So for me, I'm using Windows, so I have to download the platform for Windows. So I have already downloaded this software, so no need for me to do that. And then the next thing I have to do is to go ahead and download the next thing I have to do is to install this product. And to do that quickly I will show you when I wanted to install let me see. Okay, virtual system. Okay, these are some virtual system which I have worked with for the time being. As you can see, they are quite good. So this is the one which I was just talking about. So you just click on this, and with the next whole thing, you should be able to install the system. So I click on next. Yeah, sure. So before this finishes, I will go ahead and show you something. So we just skip this process. Now I want to download a guest operating system for you to see. For example, I already let me check. Okay, basically I'm working with Windows virtual system, so I can just go to Microsoft website. This is a Microsoft website, and this is an evaluation copy of Windows 10, and I have about 90 days to try it for evaluation, which means I don't need to register as long as I have to use it within 90 days. So to do that, I have to make a choice, and Enterprise is the most suited one. Our installation is done, so I will just go ahead. So this is my operating system. So let's skip this process first. So I just click on next, fill this information, and then click on next, and then my operating system will be downloaded. And when I open here, you see that I have this oh, I think I have deleted them unknowingly. Anyway, this is Kali Linux, which I downloaded just I think yesterday when I was about to do the presentation. And as you can see, it is of ISO type, and I told you that it has to be ISO based on this. So this is very, very interesting. ISO is recommended for you. Now let's go and see what is the next thing to do. The next thing to do is to ensure compatibility. Although we have downloaded this, we have installed this, we have seen how to do this. Now we talk about compatibility. And now in terms of the compatibility, it's very easy. I just downloaded Windows 10 and I want to know what are the requirements, or what are the compatibilities. Okay, so what I should do is, all I have to do is just to say minimum system requirements for Windows 10. Okay, and as you can see, this is it: processor, this, RAM, hard drive, graphic card, everything. All this is all I need to know. Okay, so now I have to configure my VMware settings. If I have some firewall that I need to configure, this is the time that I have to do that. So to do my configuration, first I will check and see if anything needs to be checked here from the preference, and I don't think I need to change anything at the moment. Okay, everything is all good, so no need to do any configuration at this stage. Now I have to go on to set up my to create my VM host, and to do that, let me just put it like this. So to do that, all I have to do is to click on new. So what operating system I actually want to install? So basically I want to install Kali. Okay, Kali Linux. And as you can see, automatically it has changed to Kali Linux. If let's say I want Windows, the moment I write Windows, it will change automatically. So this is one of the things that VirtualBox is capable of doing. So I will choose Kali Linux, and I just have to make sure that this is the one I want. So in most cases we choose this Debian 64-bit because my system is 64-bit. So I will click on next, and here I have to choose a memory. Wait, we were supposed to look at Windows, not this. So let me change this. Let me just say Kali Linux. What are the minimum requirements? Okay, so let's see. I hope I find something useful. So okay, yeah. So as you can see, this are the requirements. So let's go back and just wait a second. I'll start again. Okay, so I'll go to new, Kali Linux, 64-bit. Next. So it requires at least a minimum of 257 MB of RAM. Okay, so it means 1 gig of RAM is okay, all right, but I have up to 8 gig, so you can allocate up to 2 GB to your memory. Then I have to create the hard disk, which has to be which will be used for installing the Windows files, or let me say the operating system files in the virtual system. And for Kali, it requires a minimum of 3 GB, as you can see. So still not bad. I can create. I have to select this one. This is the most recommended one. So I have to choose how I want the storage to be allocated. Is it dynamic allocation or fixed allocation? It's always good to go for dynamic, because you can always go back and add or reduce the size of the hard drive. But for fixed, it will be very difficult to do that. So I will click on next, and then of course, given 8 GB is not bad. I can even get up to let's say 10 GB, okay, since we have just 3.6 GB hard disk space. So I will just click on create. Now, as you can see, I have created my first virtual system. Now at this very time, the system is not yet matured, because I have to do some configurations. And first, as you can see, I have done all this. So now let's go to the installation phase. And to do that, I will click on the virtual system. Initially it was here, so don't confuse this two, okay? This is for the virtual box itself. This is the virtual box manager, while this is the operating system manager. So I will click on settings, and when I click on settings, this is where I run the whole thing. Okay, first, this is a basic information which was already given in the installation phase, so no need to change it. Yeah, we can use this. This is for copying items. Okay, so I can drag and drop from both host and guest operating system. So choosing bi-directional is very, very wise. For this, all this are not really important. Then we go to the system. Now our memory, 2 gig, as we already know, and then of course all this, the disks, the hard disks, and everything has been enabled for boot order. If you want, you can add network. If you want to try some network installation, for example, if you are using Windows Server and you want to install 100 systems, then sometimes they have to boot through the network. So this is not relevant. If you want, you can add it. And then the next is the processor. For the processor, it's good to not to pass this red line. You can choose up to 4, okay, up to 4 processing unit, okay. And then this is okay. This is also okay. For the display, your memory, your video memory, you can take it to the maximum if you want. It's good to have this good graphics. And then what else? You can enable this for better performance of the graphics card. This is the most important part, where we have to kind of install, or where we have to map the operating system on the drive. So now I want you to assume, if you ever install Windows operating system or any kind of operating system on a machine, then you should be aware of the fact that before installation you need to put the CD inside the CD-ROM. If you are not using a CD for installation, then it has to be pen drive, which means you have to insert the pen drive which carries the operating system. So here we need to do the same thing, and to do that, we after selecting empty, we can click on this to choose Kali Linux. In case Kali Linux is not here, you can click on the location. For me, I kept it somewhere in the programs under Linux OS, and then here we are. So I just open this, and then as you can see, it has been selected and is mounted already. So I just click on the next one, which is audio. Audio is good, it's enabled. For network, this is also another most important part of this presentation. we need to understand the role of the network here. If you just want to create a virtual system which can be able to communicate through your host operating system, then NAT is okay. NAT means network address translation. So NAT is okay. The host operating system, I mean the guest operating system, will actually get all the IP addresses and the configurations ready for communication. So it's like the hypervisor will do all the work for you with the assistance of the NAT protocol. They will translate the address of the system into the host, into the host, and then provide you with the internet access you require. And then of course if you choose NAT network, then it means probably you just want to have additional virtual system that needs to share the same network, and in order to do that you have to select a network here. If there is no network available here, then probably let's just put OK. We are here on the network. If it doesn't show there, you have to go to the system's configuration and try to create the network. I already created, so this is why it was there. Now if I remove this and press OK and then go back here, go to the networks and try to select, you see that it is not there, which means for me to create a NAT network, I have to go back and create on VirtualBox under the network. Then I can just if I want, I can just say this is my my testing network, okay, and then I want it to carry IP address 192.168.100.0/24, okay. And yeah, it can support DHCP. DHCP means dynamic host configuration protocol, which allows the automatic assignment of IP address from a DHCP server. So I can just click on OK, and then it's all good. So I go back to Kali Linux and then click on settings and then go to networks, and then as you can see it has been selected by default. So this is for internal connection. And for a bridge adapter, sometimes if you want to create a scenario whereby the host can be able to communicate at the same time with the host, for example, you wanted the host and the guest operating system to communicate, then we can use a bridge adapter to do so. So there are many other types of networks, but these are the most important ones which are important for researchers, so that we understand every single thing. And for a controlled environment that requires a very tight simulation which might endanger the network, then it is best if you use NAT, so that it protects or it creates a shield that stops the network from affecting the rest of the network. So you can also enable serial ports if you want to use one. For USB, you can, you can create a filter if you want, so that if you put USB, automatically it will be selected. And as you can see, we even have the upgraded version of USB 3.0. So it all depends on you how you want to use it and so on. So we check this, good. So all this is good. So you click on OK. So now it's time to run our virtual system or our Kali Linux. And to do that, we click on Start. So for your information, I'm not going to run this installation process because it takes time, and sometimes it's kind of difficult to wait until the end. So for Kali Linux installation, you can watch any video on that. For me, I'm done with, I just finished my job here because I don't want to go further to install this on my system right now. This is just for practical purposes, but for the elementary installation, we can go for graphical installation, which gives you a graphical user interface. And then if you just say install, then it means, yeah, it's going to install probably the command line utility. So I'll go with the first one. So I can click on this, and it can go ahead and start running the operating system. It's a very long process. It takes very long time to complete, but I will just walk you through the preliminary stages. So I will click on English, continue. United States, my location is Malaysia. So where is Malaysia? No Malaysia, so I'll go for Singapore. We are neighbors. So my keyboard layout, American English, is not bad. So this goes to install the operating system. It's a very simple process. If you miss something, you can just watch other videos on installation of Kali Linux. But for me, I don't want to go that long way to install that. So there are some important things that might probably show. So this is a very important thing that you have to be at the back of your mind. This is the name that you have to assign to the host name, and Kali is okay. You can add something like Kali user if you want, and then continue. Invalid, I cannot use that. Okay, just let's call it Kali. Okay, Kali user. So we go with next. Then if you have a domain address, you can configure. If you don't have, I think you can just click on next. So full name of the user, let me just call it okay. So the username for your account, I will call it Kali testing. Okay, I hope you are just okay. I'm not supposed to set password, and okay, continue. I'll leave it here. The user you entered is invalid. Note that the user must start with lowercase. Okay, it has to start with a lowercase, so not bad. Not bad. Note that the user must start with lowercase letter, which can be followed with any combination of numbers. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so password. Any rules for the password? A good password will contain mixture of letters, numbers, punctuations. Okay, I will just choose password at 1. Okay, let me show you. Okay, password at 1. Okay, so I will click on next. So these are the crucial parts that I want to show you. So remember what you have chosen for the username and the password, else you might not be able to you might not be able to enter. So guided, yeah, I want to use guided for the partition. Guided, use entire hard disk. Yes, this is it. Yes, and okay, yes. All right, so this is it. Now I have to choose yes, write the changes. Okay. All right, so now installation begins. So I will stop the video here because I'm not interested in the installation process. At least I've shown you up to this stage. and you can install any kind of operating system in this way. And one thing I want to quickly show you before I conclude this video is that um, if you've done any kind of simulation and you think it affects the system, maybe the performance, or maybe it affects some of the system files, you can always right click on this one, that is the operating system, and click on reset. When you click on reset, automatically it resets all the actions. And sometimes be careful how you use it, because when you install some bunch of applications and then you click on reset, then it means it will start all over again. So be very sure of what you are doing. Of course, to turn off your operating system, if you want, I just want to stop this. So I can just say save the machine state, and it will save the machine at this very moment, so that when next I come, I can complete this installation. I can say send to shutdown. It will just shut down, power off the machine, it will power off the machine as well. So now I will not interrupt this, so I will just save the process. Now later on, when I restart my virtual machine, it will automatically go back to that the same location, or that the same state. As you can see, it has been saved. And if I click on start normal, okay, it will take me back immediately, and it will take me exactly to that very moment that I was working on. As you can see, it's restoring the virtual system, and it's working right now. So I will just click on save again, and then I think that is all. So if you have any question, you can post in the comment section, and this is where I say goodbye to you, and thank you so much for listening, and it's nice to be here. Thank you, and have a good day. Bye.